This movie will discuss the differences between counting and accumulating. Previously, we've seen how we can accumulate data over the course of the program by using a module-level variable and displaying the result in a label on the form. I've added a new label to our sample program called average sale. To calculate the average of anything, I need two pieces of data. I need the accumulated total, which I already have in place through the virtue of my grand total of accumulated total, but I also need to know the number of transactions. That is, so I know how many times this accumulated total should be divided by. The easiest way to do this is to simply count the number of times the user clicks the calculate button. That is, every time they click the calculate button, simply add 1. This will give us a running count of number of times the user clicks the calculate button. And this will also allow us to use that number to divide by the accumulated total to give us the average sale. Let's take a look at the code. You'll notice I've added a new variable, and it is a module-level variable just like our other accumulating variables called total transactions. It is an integer because we do not need to make this a decimal since we're simply counting the number of mouse clicks. In other words, you can't have 1.5 mouse clicks or 1 1/3. It's going to be a whole number. So we can use the variable total transactions as an integer. Just like with the accumulating statements, the actual math takes place in the calculate procedure itself. So I'll create a new line of code that will document that we're going to count the number of transactions and calculate an average. The code we need is very similar to the accumulating statements. In this case, our variable total transactions plus equal, but instead of adding a variable, we're adding the number 1. This is the actual statement that's counting the number of mouse clicks. We then are able to display into our label called average sale label the result of a division operation of taking the accumulated total decimal and dividing it by the total transactions, which is the number of mouse clicks. I'm converting this to a string so that I can display that in currency format just like the others. The other reason this would have to be converted to a string is that we're placing the result of this calculation directly into the text property of the average. Unlike the statements above where we needed the calculation for another calculation, this is our last calculation, so there's no need to place this in a variable. We could do so, but it's just as easy just to place it directly in the label as well. So we'll test our program and we'll enter some data and calculate. As you can see, we get our grand total, we get our accumulated total and average sale, which currently is the same as our accumulated total since we've only processed one transaction. If I enter new data and click calculate, that creates a new average, which is the accumulated total, in this case divided by 2, because I've now clicked the calculate button twice. If I enter new data once more and click calculate, as you can see, each time I click calculate, my average sale is changing based on the accumulated total divided by the number of transactions. One last time. Again, the average sale is changing in accordance with the actual data that's being entered. So whether you are accumulating or counting, the key is the use of the module level variables. By using module level variables, you now have the ability to accumulate, which with local variables you do not. Local variables are fresh, reset to 0 each time that the calculate button in this case is clicked, where the module level variables retain their values and are able to constantly add new data to it and not get reset.